Whoa, we're live. So this is the part, where we drink the coffee. We know you want to drink coffee with us. So get your coffee. This is the stalling part where we wait for people to grab coffee. So, hi, Fawna.
Hi, Jody.
How's your
I'm
morning?
being dramatic. Look at this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of add some cinematic effect to the coffee this morning.
Oh, I like where you're going with that. Your cup's very nice.
Thank you, Pike's Pottery.
Love it.
Yeah.
Pike's
Art by Deanna Lavoie-Sinton from Longview.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
You kind of, because you're wearing dark and your couch is dark, you kind of a little bit look like a floating head.
Oh, and then I put a necklace on. So yeah.
I like that necklace.
Thanks, Jody.
You are adding some dramatic effect to the coffee. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
You're like dark and mysterious.
You know it.
I do.
That's what people say about me all the time. Fond of you. She's dark and mysterious.
I missed that in the description of you for the video. I could go back and add it if needed. We'll just give people a couple more seconds, but as you're logging on and grabbing your coffee to have Fun Friday with us, please say good morning in the comments. We always like to know who's hanging out with us. Good morning, Janine.
Morning, Janine. I hope you're feeling better.
I like that photo that you can kind of, I don't know how well people can see it, depending on your screen, I guess, but I like that they're all in Canadian tuxedos. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Morning. Okay, well, people are hanging out with us now, so it's exciting. Welcome to our virtual coffee club. My name is Jody. If you've never been with us before, excited to have you along on our morning of coffees. Every Friday, we bring in a fun, fantastic, fucking awesome guest. I don't know. I couldn't think of another F word. That's it.
Oh, it's hard when you go to F words.
I know. It's just, there's only one that comes to mind.
Fun.
Fantastic. Anyway, guest. And so today, you've probably met her before. If you've been through Coffee Club in the long haul, she's been on some previous Fun Fridays and some other conversations, and really is the other 50% of my brain. So I'm really excited for what we could accomplish today because we're together.
That's a whole brain coffee.
I introduced you to the fantastic Fawna Buse. There's so many F's today. You're like the other F word.
Maybe that's a good tagline. Fawna, the other F word.
I feel like it is. So welcome to Coffee Club, my friend.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks. I always like to come and have a chat with you and see everybody. There's like a lot of my favorite people are hanging out here.
I know it's become this really cool space where the cool cats come to hang out, and every single person who's here is awesome. So it's always really exciting, and we're glad to have you. And
I'm wondering, Jody, are you feeling like it's, do you feel like it's Friday, or did that Wednesday holiday kind of turn your week upside down?
Well, we've kind of been home with off and on not feeling good symptoms, but we got a negative test result this morning, so everything is good. But it's just that it's sort of like, it kind of feels like quarantine again a bit, in just that we've sort of been hunkered in waiting for the results to come back. And so it hasn't really felt like any day of the week, to be honest. I haven't wore real life pants for 3 days now. It's like back into the thing, which is interesting, I think, because with the announcement coming down yesterday, right, I feel like it's good timing for you to have some Fun Friday with us, because I feel like people are feeling a little bit heavy after yesterday's announcement and the needing to sort of really crunch down on things for the next 2 weeks. And so my thought for people this morning is, how are you feeling about that? Like, do you feel like, oh, here we go again? Are you feeling strong? Like, okay, it's till the 27th. It's not full lockdown. It's partial. How do I get through this? How are you feeling?
Are you asking me, Jody?
Yeah. You and everyone watching, post in the comments.
Yeah, no, I'm curious too. I'm seeing lots of frustration on my social media. I'm feeling okay though. I feel grateful. Like it's we've been pretty lucky where I'm at, just to not have to be fully frontline. I am in a school 1 day a week, and so I just be really careful when I'm there. But yeah, I do think these increased numbers. I'm also curious, Jody, what it's doing, like how people are doing.
Yeah. And I think it's, if I can show it and do it any justice, but the community I live in is that tiny little white square, which is kind of weird. Oh, I'm getting a text. And I just realized how dirty my phone looks on the screen. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. So as you're watching this morning with some of the changes, and I mean, we do have people all over the world. So we're talking about changes that occurred in Alberta yesterday, but we know that friends that are watching from Manitoba had some pretty strict restrictions come in. Whether you're BC, Saskatchewan, we got a lot of East Coasters. How are you feeling about that this morning? Let us know in the comments. Mom's here.
Hi,
Mom's here. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Oh, hi, Jeff Robson. Darlene Goodwin's here. Yes, the fierce cougar from the West Coast.
Oh, Jackie, I can hear your text in your accent.
Right? Every time I read her Facebook posts, I try to do it with a Scottish accent also. It's so good. So yeah, as you're watching this morning, how are you feeling? We want to do a little bit of a gauge on how we can support people through some of these changes again. And part of our kindness revolution that we're having in November is to have a bit of a focus on being kind to ourselves. And I read this thing this morning. I hope I kept it for you because it made me think of, I'm like, oh, this is like the conversation I'm having with Fawna later.
I was going to actually cancel on you today because your the kindness on the kindness calendar, it says don't book a coffee today.
Don't book a coffee with a friend. I know. I was like, ooh, hopefully she's already committed. But yeah, kindness calendar is up. So if you want to check it out and do some of the fun challenges, that's just what we encourage you to do. But what I read today that made me think of you was, it all starts with you. If you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. If you want to save others, you must first save yourself. The world needs people who are willing to do the work necessary to heal, grow, and evolve. You lead by living the way. So that just really fits, right?
I love that, Jody.
Kind to you, you're not really kind to like we have to do this first. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's interesting sometimes how kind doesn't always mean, like, kind sometimes is the grit, whether it's with someone else or with yourself, to as that quote said, do the work. That it's like, okay, I'm feeling, yucky. I could go have a beer, or I could sit with this feeling and see what's behind it, or as our Cake and Eat It podcast says, I could do both. Yeah. I could have a beer and look at it. Yeah. But one way or another, it's that kindness. I think it's interesting that kindness doesn't always mean, like, sometimes you have to check in that it's not kindness in the short term, but not kind in the long term.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that we easily push self-kindness aside. And yeah. One time I think it was you that I had a conversation with about comparing to, and I've read it in different things before, but it's like, if you were looking at a picture of you as a child, would you say do the same things to the child version of yourself as opposed to the adult version, or whatever? I'm not giving the analogy quite justice, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I always think of, you can't give what you don't have. And if you don't kind of fill yourself with kindness, if you're beating up on yourself all day, you just get kind of edgy, and it's, you know how it is when you've been kind of, I don't know, like just being hard on yourself, and then somebody else points out the same thing, like how that the kindness just goes right out the window.
Yeah. How do you stop that?
I do think it is that self-kindness piece. And I mean, I think a lot about, and I think that's what you're talking about in that quote, Jody, about uh, the stories we tell ourselves and how we talk to ourselves, like those, and how much weight we give those inner voices that we all have. We've all got those. Sometimes it's like that little angel on the one side or little devil on the other, and it's like, although that one can seem really loud, it's like listening for that kind part inside of us, listening for our heart, I guess.
Yeah, and it just takes, I mean, we're not going to be great at it right off the gate, especially if it hasn't been something you've been practicing on a daily basis. Like, it's kind of, we were talking yesterday about little daily goals. And maybe one of those little daily goals is I'm going to focus on being kind to myself today. Even if
Yeah.
for one day, just don't overwhelm yourself with, okay, I have to change everything I do right this minute. It's like the quote, you got to be willing to do the work.
Yeah, that makes me think, Jody, I don't know if anyone else has had this, where you can't really fake it either. Like if they have lots of self-help exercises where you look in the mirror and you tell yourself all this stuff, which I think is helpful, but if it elicits like a bullshit in you, then it's almost like counterproductive. So sometimes you just have to start with, like, I'm willing to be more kind. Or I think you said it in a post yesterday, is just kind of lean in. In I think you were referring to one of Dr. Jody Carrington's messages. And like sometimes it's not, it's even how we are with other people. Like, if I'm just being kind to you, but it's like over the top, you're eventually going to stop kind of giving it credit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we have a few comments. Let's see what people are saying.
Let's look at the comments.
Are you going to read it in a Scottish accent for me?
No, I don't have my glasses on. Remember,
Oh,
I had.
I'm not very good at accents, so I won't butcher Jackie. But she says, frontline work is difficult some days when you work in a vulnerable population who aren't always following the practices.
Yeah, no kidding, Jackie.
Yeah, that's a challenge and I think it comes to that battle of, like, rule followers versus non-rule followers, and how does that sit inside you, and what does that look like? And you can only control your own piece, but I could see where that would have challenge.
Well, and especially, like, even Jackie has so much skill around understanding and having compassion and knowing why people might, why the vulnerable population, the trauma impact can have on making reasonable choices. But
Yeah.
but I can understand that it would get frustrating day after, it would get tiring. You
Yeah.
need a lot of self-kindness and a lot of looking after yourself to kind of balance that out.
Yeah. And that's what, that's what I'm hoping our conversations continue this month, is like, we have to keep fueling this piece to do the
Yeah.
other piece. Janine says, I don't know if it will be enough. COVID just is awful.
Mm.
So I get the overwhelming feeling of that, right? Like, it's I think we talked about this in one of the Cake and Eat It podcast episodes, was the facing the uncertainty of that.
Yeah. Yeah, like that question. I don't know if it'll be enough. What is enough? And what I think has been hard with this whole thing is, when we're doing a really good job, just like all kind of preventative work, you can't tell. So if you're doing a good job, like when we were down in the 40s per day, people are like, well, this is silly. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Right? It's a, I don't know if that's a catch-22, but if you're doing prevention well, it feels like you're overdoing it.
It feels pointless.
Yeah.
Whereas now that we're over our 50% incapacities in Alberta, again, these are Alberta stats for a hospital, then you're like, okay, maybe that's what, like, again, we can only control our little piece at a time, and focusing on your own little piece helps from feeling like it's overwhelming. Because, right, it's just like anything. If your little piece is doing good and your little piece is doing good and that person's little piece, then collectively it's good en masse.
Yeah, like when you talk about that, Jody, what comes in my mind is like chainmail. And like if we can keep our own links kind of strong and then do that connecting part, which is more difficult in this situation. Like we really have to, you get tired of these screen things and you get, it is funny though, like, I don't talk on the phone as much as I did before we had the internet, but maybe that's something I need to kind of go back to.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the points I think when we in a conversation before is like we know what to do during this process. Like the I don't know if you want to call it the good in this portion of the roller coaster is we've had this piece of the ride before. So we
Yeah.
know how to stay home, we know how to grocery shop once a week, we know how to limit social outings, we know how to connect with people through FaceTime and Zoom and all the apps that we were using before. And that wasn't forever. This isn't forever. It's
Yeah.
this little pocket. But I get that it's wreaks your havoc a little. Kelly says, this is my thoughts. So even though we're not affected, because she lives in the little white square,
Yeah.
if you're going to shut down, do a total shutdown. And some things don't make sense. So you can go to the gym, but you can't do a class. And I think that makes a great point. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Kelly, with that comment, because I appreciate you sharing. But I think it comes to a point is that because we're tired, because we're COVID fatigued, and Fawna, let me know your thoughts on this, is then it's just really easy to get pissed off at the little things that don't make sense, right? And we could focus on those little things like that example. I don't disagree with you, Kelly, on the weirdness of that. And, we think of schools still being open. Like there's this weird, we can pick the pieces. We could focus on that, or you can focus on just what are the things that you're going to do for the next 2 weeks that keep your mental health up, that keep you happy, that keeps you and your family safe, that in turn helps your community. And what does that look like? Like, how can we make the next 2 weeks even fun, right? Because you and I are both advocates of it has to be fun. How do we add some fun into the next 2 weeks instead of just being mad? I mean, don't get me wrong, we can be mad at those little things, but I would hate for people to get stuck there, because then the next 2 weeks is going to feel pretty awful.
Yeah, I appreciate Kelly saying that, like, because I do think that is something our brains are just, they are tuned to figuring out problems. And so when something doesn't make sense, like you said, Jody, you could just get stuck there. Sometimes I have to kind of go to get past that, because it's like I'm not in those meetings at the provincial level. I'm not, I will either try and put myself in their position and be like, okay, if I was sitting at the table, what am I going to hear? What am I, and just play with it, like just how I can't even imagine what that's like, having to make those decisions and knowing that after that press conference yesterday, people are like, I don't know if you watched it at all, but it was just those little angry faces going up and up and up. And those politicians are just people like us. They're our contemporaries, like they're somebody's neighbor and somebody's, so it's like they're trying to figure this out with the information that's so confusing. So there's that. And then sometimes I just have to go to, I don't know, like almost like I can't make sense of this, like almost declaring it like, okay, this doesn't make sense. What am I going to do now? Right. And I love that idea, Jody, of like, okay, is there any fun to be had? Can I find fun? Can I bring fun? Can I make it fun? Because I'm going to consciously choose not to sit in frustration. I'll let it express. And I think it's good to get it out. And then it's like, and now what?
Yeah.
Even though it makes no sense, I'm still breathing and living, and and still have control over a lot of things in my life.
Well, and we didn't do like the idea for the WTF Wednesdays came from a conversation with you in that we were talking about, you know, being positive and kind of having this great focus, but everybody needs a cheat day, especially if you're, you know, eating healthy or whatever. You just need that cake. I think that's probably why we named our new podcast Cake and Eat It, because we were just we think about cake all the time. But my point was, did I lose it?
Yeah, you just went cake.
Cake. What was I gonna say? Oh, we didn't have a What the Fuck Wednesday this week because we chose to stay really positive on Remembrance Day and really reflective. So maybe that becomes today. It can be a What the Fuck Friday because that also plays in some fun alliteration. And maybe today's the day because with, you know, hearing those restrictions that, I mean, they've kind of been unfolding across the country this week. So maybe today's the day you just want to blop that out so that the rest of your weekend you can switch back to finding some fun. Maybe that's helpful. So if you feel like you need to do that, do it.
I think where it falls in with the podcast and even what I know mental health wise is you can be frustrated and hopeful. You can be frustrated and, you know, even though I'm frustrated, I've got this really great supper planned for tonight. Or I don't know if you've seen the Queen's Gambit, but it's so good. Like there's still, you know, that you can have, like part of me is really frustrated, part of me is sad, part of me is angry, and part of me is just acknowledging that we're not just like, we can hold a lot of different pieces.
Yeah, it goes back to our discussion before of either or. The either or attitude feels like, you know, there's choices and definitives, and that can feel more negative. And like you can love what COVID has done in some instances and hate it at the same time. There's both. We got a comment from Barb saying that she's grateful we aren't shut down wherever Barb lives, as strictly as it could have been, but we have to look on the bright side. Good point. Darlene says her and Jim are feeling okay. 2 weeks of reining in activities, 14 days of finding other things to replace those activities. We have lots of choices.
So and I think that's the part. Like I think our brains don't do very well when we feel like we don't have choice. Like freedom is so important. I think that's why that was my last blog, was thinking about like, okay, how can we be free in this? Because if you do focus on what you can't do, it can feel very oppressive, and then we just turn into, you know, porcupines or volcanoes.
Yeah.
Or flat, like, you know, or just like go to bed and not want to get up.
Yeah. You can let the different pieces consume you. And that's, I hope Coffee Club will be one of those tools where if you're feeling any of those things, even if it's like you have all the joy in the world and all, like, no matter the emotional piece of gamut you're on for the day, just check in. Just check in, whether it's here or with somebody or something. Kathy says she's been trying to find a happy moment each day.
How's that going, Kathy?
Yeah, comment again on how. Like maybe there's a great way that you're doing that, Kathy, that somebody else could use that tip for. Please post it in the comments. Louise says she's doing well now, had a setback with some mental illness in September from internet bullying. So don't bully, be kind to yourself and others. Also a good message, right? It's easy to, keyboard warriors can deflate your bubbles so fast, so fast.
Yeah, and it's just like oftentimes it is like someone who's just in pain, and they're, you know, they become a porcupine, and poor Louise obviously got some, you know, got some shrapnel there.
Got some pricks.
A prick, yeah.
I don't. See, then we gotta find a way to laugh about it. It's just that's the way I roll. Nicole says her yoga studio has gone online again for 2 weeks. So she's doing house coat yoga. Nice.
Oh,
Make sure it has a good belt or wear
I
something.
know. That's where my mind went too, Jody, because I've tried to do house coat yoga. And
Downward dog in
really
a house coat. I don't know, Nicole. You're going to get some good hits maybe anyway. She set up a home studio.
camera on.
You know it's going to get twisted weird that's here with these two brains. So she's hoping that in doing that, she's helping keep someone else safe in that choice for that 2 weeks. So, yeah.
I'm just visualizing a whole class of us in house coats doing yoga.
Right?
And then I think it would add some extra core just trying to keep your belt on.
Yeah, totally. But I also feel like it would be a great opportunity to bring back the unitard, like the full body unitard. And you wouldn't feel like, I mean, because there's no hiding. This might be a good test in self-love because there is no putting the ruching in the right spot in a unitard, right? Like it is just, you are all your glory in that unitard, but it holds you together as opposed to being full on naked. I don't know where my brain's going with this, but it would be your opportunity to do that. And then you could wear the house coat and it wouldn't be so bad if your belt slipped or
Yeah.
to do the
I
inside.
was thinking hashtag BBTU, bring back the unitard.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
could start a new thing and
Yeah.
maybe we, just unitard it up for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we have some swag for Cake and Eat It podcast.
Yeah.
We're like
Yes.
a unitard,
A unitard.
a nude unitard with red writing.
Nude. Nude unitards are, yes, so wrong, yet so right. Right. It goes to the topic of our podcast of and wrong and right. So we've had some great conversation and there's lots more comments. So I love everybody that's continuing to have conversation in the comments. Continue to do that. There were people who will catch this video not live and see it later. Please jump into the conversation because as much that happens on the screen is happening in the comments. And so I really love that. But before we let Fawna go, I wanted to touch base really quick about Cake and Eat It podcast. If people haven't heard about it yet, we're kind of excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Tell me more. Tell me all the things about it.
Tell you all the things. Well, I think the big thing, Jody, is that even though you and I have both left our jobs in community work, we can't, like, it's just such a part of us. And so, like that chainmail, I just think it's, there's so many ands to be had. Like, it's like you need to look after yourself and other people. It's like you matter and the community matters. And we just both know that engaged citizens, some of the stuff I saw over Remembrance Day was fantastic, like such good examples of engaged citizens. But that we know that getting through these hard times, community is it's interesting because I was at I think it was this time last year, was at a conference, and it seems like all roads led back to community. Like it's like the mental health issues, disaster recovery, loneliness, financial struggles. It's like the strength of the individual is really, a lot of resilience comes out of the strength of the community. And like you said, you can't really have one without the other. So and I sometimes I think of it like it's we can take turns being strong, right? It's not just some people need to be strong and some people don't. It's like, and I think our experience, I know, like I hope Jackie's still on here, but definitely some of their clients that they worked with were some of the strongest people in the community, and who were showed other people like, okay, well, we live in chaos all the time, so we'll show you how to go through it. So it's just listening to all those parts. So I'm excited to just have a place where you and I can talk about that passion and maybe connect with other community geeks, and that it's really is getting away from that either or and being like, we need these people and these people and these people and these people and all the parts of ourselves. So I could go on and on about that. So that's probably why we have to have a podcast.
Exactly. Well, I think we were finding we really needed that outlet. So if people aren't familiar with work, Fawna and I worked together on a project that was originally grant funded called Our High River, where we did a lot of really awesome community engagement work. And the grant for that has subsided. And what's really cool is our ultimate goal from the beginning is that Our High River has been shifted and taken over by a group of citizens in the community. So please still follow along the Our High River social media, because there's lots of great things happening for that community, led by community there. But Fawna and I were just like, we need an outlet to share these passions that we have. And so we created this Cake and Eat It podcast place. So there is a Facebook page set up for it. If you would like to come over and like that, we're going to be having more conversations much like this today on that page and on that podcast. And yeah, we're just really excited about it. And we're going to have lots of people do it with us. It won't just be us.
Oh no, it can't ever be just be us. It's and so if you've got something that you want to talk about or you're fired up about that has to do with anything to do with and community, citizenship, partnership, how we can get along.
Yeah.
We want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Rudy, I have to go.
I know, I have to go too. We're way over time limit.
That's weird.
I know. Funny us, but thank you for having some fun Friday. Thank you everybody for the conversation, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great Friday.
Have a great Friday.